Morgan, give him some information, they might get some information back.
No.
And some of it's just
like, some of it's also manipulative. Like, if all of a sudden,
absolutely.
If all of a sudden, if that person's feeding you information, they think that maybe you'll pull punches. On them.
Or they think that the next time there's a general manager open, you will put their name in the paper as a potential hire and get their name out there.
Like, I talked to a GM today that was just a wealth of info, and it's just because it's longevity. I've known him forever. Like, you hate to say we're buddies, but I've known him forever, and it's like that all the time. And that is. Not to give too much inside baseball here because it was a total off-the-record conversation, but that's the type of stuff that I'm trying to convey when I met with Paul the other day, is that, like, look, this is not coming from inside your organization, almost everything I know. And that's just a fact, it just is. And longevity. I mean, this is going to sound almost in a pompous way, but I've been asked at our athletic meeting in Vancouver in next week is to almost do a seminar on cultivating sources and breaking news, because at the Athletic we're all about storytelling and things like that. Where I'm probably less about storytelling and more on the old newspaper being the beat writer. I can't get that out of me. It will never be. And that's the great thing about the Athletic, by the way, is they want you to cover the beat the way that you know how to cover the beat. So I want to cover the beat like a hard ass, and some people it rubs the wrong way. So next week I'm meeting and I'm doing this thing, and that's going to be weird because I'm talking to a bunch of my colleagues that also I don't want to sit there and lecture. But, I mean, that's kind of – a lot of it is longevity. I'm working with – there are other writers at The Athletic that are 22 years old that that have covered the NHL for 1 year, and I'm 35 and covered the league for 25. So it is. So I always say also, like, one joke I always tell everybody is that, like, if you cover a dysfunctional franchise, you're usually going to have a lot of people coming to your information. And if you cover a lot of GMs and coaches and owners, you usually, when those people get fired, as long as you have good relations with them, they're usually all of a sudden sources. And in Florida, man, I mean, I covered I just sound like Nate Prosser. Frick. He says frick. Like, I covered 12 coaches down there and like 6, 7 GMs and heck, I mean, about 20 owners. And so I was thinking today about what like that franchise still, it's just unreal. They have not won a playoff round since Doug McClain was the coach in 1996. Isn't that insane? You think you have it bad here? Oh. Anyway.
Back to beat writing part.
But Jason, you and I'll come on that date with Lou, with you, and everybody always gets the real story. Ask Vicky and Clyde and Brian, who come on my Europe trips. You usually get the real story after a couple of glasses of wine.
Yeah,
or one glass of wine.
But I covered the Dallas Cowboys, came here to cover the Vikings.
I'm good for a couple of rants.
The fact that I had sources in Dallas, I made relationships in Dallas. If I heard something here, I could call them for confirmation. And Michael's covered a million teams and a million different general managers. So you just build up a wealth of people you can go to. And it's like I've been hanging out with Michael on the road, and we'll have dinner plans. He goes, "Oh, nope, I got to go out with this player or this scout."
Yeah.
I mean, you sit down with somebody one-on-one who's an honest person, they're going to end up telling you something.
My calendar right now for Vancouver is insane. I don't know what I'm going to write. The amount of meetings I have with agents and scouts. But what was it in Vancouver? We were about to go something, and like, I got to go.
We're at covering the Olympics in Vancouver, and we're hanging out a lot. And sometimes you go, "Nope, I got to text."
Well, the big one, I remember the 2004. Oh, this is awful. At the 2004 All-Star Game here in Minnesota, I'm out to dinner with my two competitors from the Miami Herald and the Palm Beach Post, and I get a call that Rick Dudley, who I talked to today, is stepping down as he was the interim coach and the GM of the Panthers, and I got a scoop that he was while at the All-Star game that when we got back, that John Torchetti was going to be the interim coach of the Panthers, and he was just going to step back to manage the team going to the trade deadline. So I'm sitting here, I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at these two guys, and I'm just like, I think I made up a story that somebody was sick in my family or maybe even died. Okay, it was one of those two, and somebody might have died, and I left. We were at where we were at the old Chevys in downtown Minneapolis. Again, who knew that a year later I was going to be the beat writer for the Minnesota Wild? So we're at the old Chevys, and I run back to the Marriott. And I make a bunch of calls, and shockingly, it was just run as fast as I can run. And I was in better shape back then. And so I get to my hotel. I break the story, and again, there's no like Twitter. So the next morning at the airport, these guys are getting calls, and I had front page, Torchetti to take over Wild Coach, and these guys were just so pissed off because I lied about the death in the family.
I thought your mom looked fine last week.
Yeah. So, it was fun talking to Duds today, just talking old stories, Panthers. Holy crap, some of the stories there. You think this is bad here sometimes? An unbelievable one was Stephen Weiss is the first-round pick from the Panthers. And Stephen, we're at Game 9, we're in Chicago, and that night before, Rick Dudley tells me on the phone we're keeping him. He's not going back to juniors, okay? And all of a sudden, I get to United Center, and Stephen Weiss is coming out of the Panther locker room with his bag, crying. Well, right away, and he's been sent back to juniors from Mike Keenan. So right away, I'm kind of pissed off. I called Dudley. I'm like, why'd you lie to me? He goes, what the hell are you talking about? He's in St. Louis scouting. And I go, Weiss is leaving the United Center right now in a cab. And he goes, what? And he hangs up, calls me back. He goes, don't go anywhere. And he drove from St. Louis to Chicago going 100 miles an hour to go meet with Keenan and just tear him to pieces. And Weiss wound up staying. But that was the beginning of that fractured relationship. So we were talking about stuff like that today. That was I could tell. One day we should just do a podcast where I tell Mike Keenan stories. That was a treat covering him. So there was something else you said that triggered something in my head about cultivating sources, but that's really it. I mean, in Vancouver, it's just it's a mutual respect thing too. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Is and the other thing is as a writer, I think that the people. I remember Jacques Lemaire. My first couple of weeks on the beat, he was trying to figure me out. Florida beat writer coming up and covering this team, and blah blah blah. And once he realized how much I loved the sport and how much I knew the sport, that's all they care about. Hockey people want beat writers that love the sport and have a passion for it, and they recognize, most people recognize that right away, and respect that.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, in my experience covering the Twins, is people would come up and tell me stuff because they knew news was going to come out eventually. They wanted me to have it.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, and what that's the fun part. That's what makes this job fun. Every scoop I've ever had, every I could tell you exactly the scenario of how it was broken, what it was done. That stuff sits in my head. As I've gotten older, it's gotten. I used to sit in any arena in this league and could tell you 25 notebook leads I've written from inside that arena. I remember this and this says that stuff is dissipated a bit as I've gotten into my late 30s, but breaking news stories. I mean, that's what I love about the beat. I mean, and that's again, it's what I was trying to explain to Paul. You're just not going to take that out of me. I'm a reporter first, a writer second. That's the way I'm always going to be. That's why I got into this business. That's what I love about this business. I love, trust me, covering the hockey games. But I'm going to work to find out news, and that's just the way it is. I write. I don't work for the Wild. I write for the fans, and it kills me sometimes because that's what keeps me up at night. All the stuff that I do know that I can't write or report or say, except to Vicky in Europe. I remember last year we're at St. Mark's Square. We're sitting in St. Mark's Square in the middle of freaking Venice, and I'm sitting with Clyde and Vicky and my mom, and I'm just on a roll. And poor Vicky, I fractured her. I ruined her. She was just I was just on a roll about the Wild. So you get me in those situations. See, it's worth coming on these trips. There's still some room. Going to Europe in 2 weeks.
Or just buy him a beer right now. He'll crack like an egg.
Oh, Brian will get a kick out of this. So in Dublin a couple of years ago, I don't know, John, if you were John Hedges, if you were in this little bar, but we're in this little bar in Edinburgh. And it's the first night, and I'm holding court with all these people. And Andy and Claudine have become two of my closest friends here in Minnesota. Their son, Rhino, is studying abroad in Ireland, but came to Scotland, if I remember, to hang out with them, obviously. And so we're in this little bar, and Ryan at the time is probably, I don't know, maybe 20 or 21. And and I'm talking at the Wild, and this poor guy, he's just getting more and more heartbroken. So, because that's where you get the kind of unfiltered stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway.
Hey, thank you all for coming out. We appreciate it. Thanks to Tin Shed for hosting and sponsoring the program. Great stuff from Michael. This is great storytelling. We'll get back to more nuts and bolts hockey. I asked for Twitter questions. We didn't get to any because there were so many good questions here that sparked conversations. So let's all give Michael a happy birthday and a round of applause. And remember, we'll be back here June 26th, 7 o'clock, and we will give away 2 Wild tickets. Thanks to Brian from Tin Shed for supplying that. And again, thanks to everybody who's made the show a success. One more time. Give Michael happy birthday applause. Make him blush.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world